As the third season of Reacher comes to a close, the title character overcomes one of his greatest obstacles and triumphs. Reacher Season 3 of the Amazon Prime Video Detective series starts off oddly, with Alan Ritchson not acting like his typical self, in contrast to the prior two seasons. However, a turn of events quickly reveals that Jack Reacher is DEA undercover and has been posing to gain the confidence of Zachary Beck, a dubious rug seller. According to flashbacks, he only consented to work with the DEA because his undercover operation enabled him to kill Xavier Quinn, the guy responsible for the murder of Dominique Cole, his MP colleague. Given that Quinn is in charge of Beck's clandestine gun-running enterprise, Reacher intends to use his clandestine operation to apprehend and murder him. Quinn, however, turns out to be one of the Reacher's most formidable enemies. In Season 3, Reacher, Neagley, and the DEA overcome numerous obstacles to defeat the villains before it's too late. How Reacher and his group kill Quinn and save Teresa at the end of Season 3. The title character discovers that Quinn deceived them into thinking that the gun sale was taking place in the salvage yard following the events of Reacher Season 3, Episode 7. The situation is still managed by Jack Reacher and his two DEA accomplices, Duffy and Villanueva, who capitalize on the conflict between Quinn's men and the ATF officers. In the events that follow, they even seize two vehicles that are traveling to Beck's estate and enter the compound without Paulie noticing. But the season's last arc starts when Paulie starts to suspect one of the truck's parking space and goes in its direction. Reacher instructs Neagley and the DEA officers to go to the house as he gets ready for his last confrontation with the giant, because he knows that only he can deal with Paulie. Neagley poses as a waiter inside the house, and Duffy goes to Teresa's aid. Villanueva goes to Richard's room to save him in the interim. Nasser, Quinn's buyer, arrives shortly after Duffy finds herself in Teresa's room with the intention of maximizing his time with Teresa. At first, it appears that Duffy is afraid of attacking him, because it might cause a commotion and warn his men. But in the end, she disregards her caution and murders the man. Reacher nearly loses Quinn in the last conflict between the heroes and the villains. However, the Russian mobsters Quinn had loaned money from suddenly appear up and try to take Quinn away. Neagley forces them to hand him up to them by not only promising the money Quinn was going to gain from his buyers, but also using a dispersed grenade to scare them. With this, the mobsters agree to leave Quinn behind. While Neagley and the DEA officers clear up the remaining debris, Reacher avenges Dominique Cole's death by first jogging Quinn's recollection of how he killed her and then shooting him dead with a shotgun. How Reacher defeats Paulie in Season 3's finale. When Alan Ritchson's Jack Reacher sets out to defeat Olivier Richter's Paulie in the Reacher Season 3 finale, it's one of the most suspenseful situations. Reacher Season 3 features a spectacular combat scenario when Reacher almost dies after being beaten by the 7-foot Titan, after the fight scene has been built up for almost the whole show. The two protagonists even tumble into the rock pit that Quinn's soldiers used to dispose of remains in the water during their battle. Before leaving for the mansion, Reacher appears to drown Paulie in the sea, but to his amazement, Paulie escapes unscathed. In the guardhouse of the mansion, the two characters engage in a final struggle. Once more, Paulie tries to overwhelm Reacher by showcasing his might, but while battling Paulie, Reacher deftly removes the bullet from the gun's belt and blocks its barrel. Then, by allowing him to stand behind the pistol, he gives Paulie the impression that he is in control. However, Paulie is killed when the gun's barrel bursts in his face as soon as he attempts to shoot. The meaning behind Neagley's remark: that Reacher hates the big guy. Neagley claims she truly comprehends Reacher's motivations after he and the team salvaged the day. She argues he does not combat crime only to set things right and protect the ordinary guy. Instead, he does it because he hates the big who think they can just get away with things. In Lee Child's Persuader, which Reacher Season 3 adapts, Jack Reacher quotes the same remark when Duffy asks him the same question. By making Neagley borrow Reacher's line from the novels, the show clearly seeks to imply that she knows him more than he knows himself. Reacher's sense of justice might not always be motivated by the proper things, as Neagley's line also makes clear. The book answers that Duffy produces the right results for all the wrong reasons. Reacher acknowledges this as well, which explains why he queries Neagley about why it took her so long to realize it. The quotation demonstrates that Reacher is not your average hero who always makes things right by acting morally. He is more of a morally dubious anti-hero who frequently acts out of darker motives and leaves a huge blood trail in his wake. Nevertheless, by punishing the evil folks, Reacher always serves the greater good, despite the fact that his motivations are frequently faulty. The reason Duffy leaves Reacher before he does. In the final moments of Reacher Season 1, Alan Ritchson's character had to have a difficult talk with Roscoe about how his way of life would never allow him to be in a committed relationship. In the hopes that they would cross paths again, Roscoe gave him her number on a Clark bar wrapper before letting him go. Dixon, who played the character in Reacher Season 2, also grew close to him toward the end, but she allowed him to go since she knew he valued freedom and the open road above all else. Duffy does not attempt to make things more difficult for Reacher, which is fortunate for him. She approaches him and informs him that she is not the stick to you, make it last type of person, before he can wrap up their relationship in a nice way. By doing this, she demonstrates how similar she is to Reacher, particularly in terms of her views on romantic relationships. The fact that she gives him the same farewell speech he typically gives to women he is romantically involved with also relieves Reacher. How Season 3 of Reacher prepares for Season 4. Like its predecessors, Reacher Season 3 entirely adapts the single plot from a whole Lee Child novel. By traveling through all the story beats in Lee Child's Persuader, Reacher Season 3 closes on a conclusive tone without immediately laying the path for another season. Jack Reacher's return to the open road at the film's conclusion only indicates that Alan Ritchson's character will eventually find himself in a town. As usual, he will run into problems and end up in the sights of yet another group of criminals. The book that Reacher Season 4 will adapt is still up in the air, but it's likely that the protagonist will join forces with new heroes in the series' upcoming arc. Viewers can also anticipate Neagley's return in Season 4 as she has consistently made appearances in every season of Reacher. Fans have a lot to look forward to in the franchise now that the Neagley spin-off show has also been confirmed.